What's your biggest flex that you'll never tell anyone? Story 1. In my public speaking class, I had to give a speech on procrastination. I wrote the speech an hour before class. In my feedback notes, I was told I had great preparation. Story 2. I saw Elton John in Vegas, Red Piano Tour. During Benny and the Jets, I can whistle extremely loud. I nailed the whistle part that is on live version of the song that plays on the radio. He smiled. I saw him live once when he unfortunately was battling a bad flu. Still sounded fucking amazing though. At one point, he turned around to throw up in a bucket behind the piano. We were in the seats sort of behind the stage, supposed to be the cheap seats, but he always turned around and acknowledged us, so it was great. And just cheered as loud as we could to show support, and he laughed, put his fingers to his mouth, as if to say, shh, it's a secret. Story 3. I kept light-up sketchers under my bed to walk around the house at night. Story 4. I saw a lizard in the middle of a busy road. I bent down on the side of the road and called for it as I put my hands out. He ran straight into my arms. I carried him to safety and didn't think anything of it until I heard a stranger behind me go, "Y'all see that shit? She's a lizard whisperer." Man, I wish there was another witness because I bet I looked cool. I saved a baby squirrel this exact way. I didn't think about how crazy it was that the squirrel came running and hiding in my jacket till later that day. 4-lane busy road, and its mom was roadkill in the middle of it. And it was frantically investigating its mom as cars drove by. Still breaks my heart. Story 5. I raised $100,000 for a scholarship fund in the memory of my deceased twin brother. Since that time, we've given away over 200 scholarships. I'm sorry about your brother, but it's amazing you were able to help so many people. Story 6. I was quoted on some literary website for something I said off the cuff in an argument. I also got to play a few shows with some of my favorite bands of all time, but I'm so far removed from the music scene now that no one I know would ever care about it except for me. Story 7. Deaf person here who wears hearing aids and relies heavily on lip reading. I get excited on the extremely rare occasions I can figure out a spoken phrase without any lip reading. It almost never happens. Or when I recognize a song I know. But there's no point in bragging because other people will just think that I'm not that deaf and makes less of an effort to face me and speak clearly. LOL. Story 8. I bought some then relatively worthless Apple stock because I thought I'd be able to eBay the stock certificate with the rainbow Apple logo when the company went out of business. My investment guy just thinks I'm really clever. I've not corrected him. Story 9. When I was 15, I won a scholarship to study ballet in Russia. It was amazing. Story 10. I lived with my grandparents my whole life who lived in a small little house across the street from a big fancy neighborhood development. They lived in the same house for 40 years before the development. It was a very bad hill on a busy road with the neighborhood entrance at the bottom of the hill, which was across the street from our house. Me and my grandpa would pull people out of the wrecks all the time. Saved a bunch of lives, but sadly saw over 10 people die on that hill growing up. The big fancy people in that neighborhood would always bring us food and gifts. They called my grandpa the gatekeeper. Story 11. I was in the grocery store and saw an older woman standing in the aisle comparing what was in her cart to what was in her wallet, obviously counting to see if she could afford everything. Based on her body language as she walked away, I could tell the answer was no. So I took a 20 out and walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, when you were over there just a second ago, this fell out of your wallet." I handed her the bill and just walked away so she wouldn't be embarrassed if she figured out I was lying. I did hear her say thank you, so I half turned and told her, "You're welcome. Have a nice night." It was only $20, but I like to think it made a difference to her, and that felt amazing. Story 12. I had a class where the professor was pissed that everyone did really bad on an essay and was yelling at the class. He said that aside from one person who got a 97%, he was disappointed with everyone there. I had the 97%. Story 13. I never get bored, ever. It's a useful superpower when I'm stuck in certain situations. Story 14. I've been clean 6 months off heroin for the first time in 5 years. Story 15. At one point I could sing along perfectly to "We Didn't Start the Fire." I still know most of the words, but I'm always so embarrassed to sing it in front of other people, LOL. Story 16. I have enough old, valuable Magic the Gathering cards to buy a car. A new, really nice car. I don't tell anyone in real life because they're from when I was young and collected them, and my current social circle would think it's kid/nerd stuff and wouldn't understand. Doesn't get me down though. Current plan is to hold on to them until they go up enough over time to match my mortgage balance, then use them to pay off the house. Story 17. I have no gag reflex. This will go to my grave. Married man with 3 kids. Story 19. My debit card went through for a really large amount, and the lady behind the counter had been so smug and irritating for so long, and then she tried to deny my card because it wouldn't go through for that amount, and I asked her to just please try it. The look on her face when it went through was so satisfying. May I never make that large a purchase again. Story 19. I dropped a fry from my mouth and slapped it to try and save it. It landed back in the box. Story 20. Me and my girlfriend created in the past a YouTube channel for kids, playing with toys using only our hands and voices. We had the videos hitting 300K views, but we uploaded a few videos, like 10 videos, because our priorities changed and we stopped. But we were still able to make several hundreds of dollars from them, and the videos still generate some money today, even after many years. I think if we had continued with that, maybe we would be able to make a lot of money. I regret we didn't keep uploading more videos. Do you know that random intuitive ideas you have sometimes? Pay attention to them. Your deep you is smarter than yourself sometimes. Story 21. I intentionally don't step on ants just because they're cool. Story 22. When my girlfriend and I worked at the same bar, I threw a coaster at her like a frisbee. It arced over her and like 20 customers, only to land perfectly on the neat stack of other coasters like 50 feet away. It was so fucking cool, but nobody noticed except one customer who I later had to kick out for taking a nap on the bar. No point in telling anybody, but I look back fondly on that moment. Story 23. Woman in my office had a fairly long piece of TP attached to her shoe, and I stepped on it and detached it from her shoe. I felt like a superhero. I still feel like a superhero about it. Story 24. When I was in high school, we did a toy drive with our homeroom classes around the holidays where each class was assigned a family in need to donate money or buy toys for. By the last day, almost none of the toys had been bought from the kids' list. We just collected a modest chunk of money for the family. I went home and told my mom that I didn't need anything, but I would like to get some of those things the kids asked for. My mom and dad talked. They'd both grown up poor and knew the money we'd collected would probably be used on necessities, not toys. So my mom and I went out and came back home with about $300 worth of toys the kids had asked for. I brought them in early before school started and submitted them and the receipts for them to my homeroom teacher. Later on, one of my classmates, who I had great disdain for ever since the 3rd grade when he blatantly stole my new pencil, came in and announced that he was making the biggest contribution to our class with a $40 donation. The teacher made eye contact with me, but I remained neutral and shrugged. So the teacher didn't correct him, just smiled and said thank you to him. I figured he needed that affirmation more than me, and I never liked being the center of attention anyway. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch our YouTube video. If you find our content helpful and enjoyable, please click the subscribe button to stay updated on any new videos we share in the future. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our next upcoming videos.